in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think when someone with a different mentality had to adapt the same condition and environment? So, it would likely to break the mental itself, right? So, we would like to oppose the glorification and normalize of resilience. Well, before I went into my speech, I will going to divide it into two sections, which are the background that include definitions, status quo, stakeholder, urgency, and goals. And into my second section is that my argument. So I will moving on into my first one by the background, which is the definition. So resilience refers to the ability of individual to endure hardship, adapt to adversity, and bounce back from difficult circumstances. It is often promoted in education, workplace, and public policy for personal trait that link to success and emotional strength. But this only causing much more problem due to the glorification of it, since glorification is the act of praising, honoring, or portraying something as a better. This causing it to be normalized and only giving a trauma to many young society. Moving on into my status quo, resilience has been in a lot of scenario, right? Such as education, like school, university, classes, and workplace, public, etc. But many of it considered to be a negative support as it was pushing someone's mental health to be broken, right? Due to the pressure of the handle of it. This causing many of the bad habits became to now as a pressure and not motivation to the younger society. Moving on into my stakeholder, there are two stakeholders that I will talk about in my urgency, which are the older society that contains baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Millennial, etc. And the young society is that Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So I will moving on into my urgency. The older society pushing their resilience to the young society as a motivation for them, but only leads pressure for the younger society as they teaching them in a harsh way and how it was how it was not how it was bad to the younger society. So the younger society is the one who get the pressure of negative real resilience by the elder society, that they would likely to break up and fight off their rights because it often how it was normalized. This will I will talk I will mention this in my argument. So moving on into our goals, that we want that is our goal is to be simpler and clear. So which are stop the glorification of resilience because of how it was normalized by the older society as coping mechanism due to the generational trauma. So before I went into my argument, I would likely to divide it into three sections, which are the cultural relativism, social contract, and individual right to choose. So moving on into the first one, which is the cultural relativism. So notice of how many baby boomers had a trauma, right? It was likely because due to the from the World War II. Because of that, they had a children which are the Gen X. Because due to their trauma from the World War II, they were likely punishing and teaching Gen X for becoming tough from the generational trauma. This was not a proper teaching due to only giving a hard resilience and because and the pressure of it. They teaching that way because of the trauma they had. This was likely to be also one of their way to fend their trauma because or also their coping mechanism due to the effect of the World War II. Because of that, this only leading them teaching about resilience but in a negative way. This causing that many of bad habits has been born because of it. Because of often how it was normalized for punishing and teaching kids, only giving them a Gen X for a generational trauma to the young society. And due to the fact of how it was really normalized, it became a culture of it. So resilience was more in a negative way because due to the fact that it was only giving them a harsh motivation and only bringing mental health to the society. So like the example of that, many of the Gen X were harsh and cold due to the generational trauma to the young society. So I will continue into my second argument is that social contract. You may ask why? Well, here's the thing. due to the generational trauma that baby boomers had give to the Gen X. This the young society has because of the Gen X. Gen X would likely to trauma dumping the young society. You might ask why? Well, here's the thing. This became because of the due to the pressure of their trauma that became of that come from the baby boomers. It was would likely to teach Gen X to do the same way to the younger society. But the fact is that younger society considered as a soft one. This creating them to become a seniority. You may ask why, ladies and gentlemen? Well, here's the thing. Because they're gonna tell young society they've been teach in a harsh way, such as that they have been punishing into like had to be beaten up, had to be work really hard. This only giving them had a resilience, but in a negative way, and only giving the young society a harsh way to be normalize normalize the normalize the resilience. Because of this causing that young society this causing that young society should be better because the fact of the seniority that thinks that Gen X were think, oh, I was treated like this, you should be better because I was treated like this. You guys are too soft. You have to be becoming brave, strong, more than us. That's what it came from mind of the Gen X. Because of the because of that thing, this was likely to born the hustle culture. As you know, the hustle culture is a toxic workaholic lifestyle that also came because of the seniority of it. We can see the example of how toxic workplace due to the factor of seniority and hustle culture. Moving on into my third argument is that the individual right to choose. So, as the younger society, which are Gen Z, had been teased by the same of their parents, which are either Gen Millennial or Gen X. Because of this only making them teach in a harsh way, but not like really harsh like the Gen X. But due to the Gen Z were more softer than and more softer to the generation to the Gen Millennial. This causing that many of them had thinking and fighting off their rights, and because they think that due to the fact of their way they're thinking and their softiness, fighting off their resilience due to the it has borne many bad habits, making them thinking, oh, it is it's not thinking like they, oh, it's not should be normalized. This would not normal like this shouldn't be a habit to the many of the people. This only giving them a mental health issues such as that. Because of their fighting of their resilience, they became a more bad habits. Many of them not respected and live how they want. Example, many of Gen Z job is a solo career rather than the companies that had a boss. Their job is such as influencer, freelancer, business, etc. So, we conclude all of my three arguments that we want to stop normalizing and glorification of resilience.